Someone Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 30. Chapter 24. Even If It Hurts. I'm beginning to get concerned, Nemuri said once she answered the phone. I don't think you've ever called me this much in any amount of time for the... How long have I known you? I don't know, Shouta said. I need help. Since when do you ask for help? Nemuri asked, and Shouta could imagine her on the other side of the phone, gaping like a fish. Shouta supposed it was fair. It wasn't often he did ask for help. Usually, his friends had to offer it first, and if he declined that offer, they'd help anyways. Nemuri liked to say his pride was simply too great to accept anything of the sorts. Hizashi seemed to think it was because Shouta never considered the idea of help a possibility. Shouta didn't know which one of them were right, and he tried not to think about it too much. Please, Shouta said. There was a silence from the other side of the line before Nemuri's voice sounded, quiet and tentative, and laced with worry. What's going on, Sho? Hisashi's shoulders slumped forward, and he felt awish in relief. I am not sure what just happened, and I need you to help me sort it out. Shouta would have preferred to have this conversation in person, partially because he hated everything that had to do with talking on the phone, and partly because it didn't seem like a conversation he had over the phone. But his options were limited, and with both Izuku and Hizashi on bed rests, so he'll have to make do. He'll have to make this conversation fast. Izuku would likely wake up any minute. Talk it out, Sho, Nemuri said, and she sounded so much like Hizashi in that moment that Shouta had to sit down, because what had just happened felt monumental and important and heavy, and he simply couldn't wrap his head around it. Nemuri was a blessing. I had to get Hizashi up, he stated. Nemuri had made a small noise on the other side of the line, prompting him to go on. We walked around the apartment. Hizashi had been leaning against them the entire time because of his dizziness, and Shouta had been worried about dropping him. Hizashi had to take a break, and he sat on the couch. His voice sounded stiff, and still did, and it was just tolerated for Shouta how much he loathed talking on the phone. We talked about something. I don't remember what. I said that I loved him, and that I would take care of him forever, however long it took him to get better, and... Nemuri said, when his sentence tapered off. He asked me to marry him. There was silence from the other side of the phone, complete and utter silence, for a few tense moments before one word came through. What? Shouta had to pull the phone away from his ears. Yes. He asked? Yes. And you... I said what? You said what? I said what? Oh my... Shouta Aizawa! Yes. What did you say next? After I said what, he said, marry me again. And then? The sheer ridiculousness of this conversation seemed to be hitting him. He felt the absolute urge to laugh, and he had no idea why. He threw up in a bin. He threw up in a bin? That is what I said. Yeah, that sounds about on par with him. And Shouta really did laugh this time, because it was. He stifled for another moment later, however, because he was supposed to be quiet. Well, what are you gonna say? He was high on painkillers, Nemuri. Shouta said. He wasn't sure why, but he thought he felt oddly disappointed by that. He probably won't remember it in a few hours. Drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. He wasn't drunk. Still not sober thought. Hizashi sighed, tugging at the strands of his hair, because this was oddly funny, and incredibly stupid, and he was far too exhausted and overwhelmed to deal with all of this. Stop it. You're doing the thing, I can tell. Shota's hand fell from his hair. What would you say if he wasn't high? I don't know, Shouta admitted. Now that the hilarity of this situation had passed, it felt as if he had been replaced by another wave of awkwardness, incredulity, and something akin to fear. I'm young. So is Hizashi, Nemuri pointed out. And Loopy Hizashi seems to think it was a great idea. That doesn't mean it is, Shouta said. I'm 21. So is Hizashi. We haven't been together that long. As of a week or so ago, you've been dating for 5 years. I'm broke. He's broke. We're both broke. We can't afford it. You're getting that bonus thing from the hero agency soon? From the mission, Nemuri said. And, what? Shouta said, nervousness mounting. Too much was happening at once. This couldn't possibly be good for his health. I might have found you a job, Nemuri said. All 3 of us jobs, actually. Shouta felt like he wouldn't like where this is going. What kind of job? A well-paying one, Nemuri said, which answered exactly 0 of his question. Don't worry about it. When Hisashi's better, we can all talk about it then. But I really think you'll get the job, so you don't have to worry about money. In the years Shouta had known Nemuri, he's long since learned not to question when she was sure about something, no matter how much he wanted to. He filled his inquiries away to pursue at a later date. He doesn't want to marry someone like me. Shou, are you forgetting that he proposed to you? Shouta was irritated to admit that she had a point. Look, like you said, he might not have even meant it. He was on painkillers. But if he did mean it, and you just don't want to marry him, just say so. You know Hizashi, he's not going to pressure you into anything you don't want. I know, Shouta said, because he did. That was one of the best things about Hizashi. He was kind to an infuriating degree, and he thought about other people's happiness before his own. That was why he was such a good hero, and why he was so good with Izuku. But I don't think that's the problem, Nemuri said. I don't think you have a problem marrying him. At least, you never seemed like you would mind. So, there's something else going on here. I'm out of my depth, Shouta admitted. Too many things are happening at once. The world is not making sense. I am a bit stressed out. A bit? Nemuri echoed. More than a bit, I'm sure. What? I know, Nemuri said. And that was something about her voice that told Shouta that she did know, and that she did understand to some degree. I know you have trouble with some situations like this, but it's all gonna work out in the end. The bad times pass. They always do, okay? Now, talk to me. What else is going on here? He felt angry and irritated, and it was such an irritation and sudden feeling it surprised him. He felt uncomfortable, and he had no idea why, because if it was real, and he almost hoped it was, that it was real, was a good thing. It should be a good thing, but it didn't feel like a good thing. It made him feel dread. It was just another confusing thing to add onto the growing pile. It made him want to bang his head against the wall, or bury himself under a mount of blankets and just stay there for a few hours, or a few days, from people and civilization and the problems that plagued his life. But he couldn't afford that. Not anymore. He wasn't sure how he was supposed to have this conversation. How to cut and mold the words into something he could say clearly and something others could understand. At times, he had trouble doing that in person. The plastic and metal tube that was his phone and 1,000 feet worth of distance between him and Nemuri clearly wasn't helping. A moment before he got the chance to attempt to answer her, he heard a shift in he and Hisashi's bedroom, followed by a low whine, so quiet you wouldn't be able to hear it unless you were listening for it. Izuku was awake. Shouta said, "I have to go." "Shouta, I have to go," he said again, before ending the call and tossing the phone over to the side. He allowed himself to stay there on the couch, just a moment more, before he heard another low noise coming from the bedroom, and stood up. Izuku was curled up onto his side in the bed, facing away from where Hizashi was, finally, blissfully asleep, and his face was scrunched up slightly, cheeks pale and a bit clammy looking. His hair was like a messy green tumbleweed attached to his head. "Awake, child," Shouta said quietly, and Izuku's head pecked up slightly before he started making grabby hands in Shota's direction. "Are you in pain?" Shouta whispered, standing at Izuku's side of the bed. Izuku shifted over to the side of the mattress and grabbed Shota's hand. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked. His voice was dry, and even croakier than Hisashi's had been. That way he talked almost sounded like how he'd been when he first come to live with Shouta and Hizashi. Voice small, words round and clumsy, W's where W shouldn't be. Shouta had been considering giving him a speech therapist for his child back then, because he was a little too old to be talking that way. But it seems to have cleared on its own, after he'd been living with them for a while and had started going to school. Maybe it had just come out again because he was tired. Shouta hoped that was all. "Why would I not be okay?" Shouta asked dryly. He bent down slightly, easing an arm around Izuku's shoulders and easing him off the bed and onto the floor. Izuku winced slightly, eyes going a bit red and glassy, as he got back onto his feet. "You have to walk around and eat and shower." Shota's voice sounded sternly and filled with a heavy dose of conviction that he himself didn't feel. "You look tired," Izuku said, and Shouta helped him leave the dark bedroom. The first thing they would have to do was a full walkthrough around the living room, before Shouta dropped Izuku back onto the couch and dug through the fridge to find some sort of food that was pre-cooked and not spoiled beyond safe human consumption. In the end, he decided to make Izuku a sandwich. "I am always tired," Shouta said, slapping a few slices of smoked ham and cheddar cheese onto 2 slices of wheat bread. Not white bread, because Hizashi couldn't stand the stuff, and he was convinced that it was pure sugar and not much else. And, even without looking at Izuku, Shouta could hear the frustration behind the croaky voice. Bad. Bad. You look bad. Like when you have bad patrols, or when I cost too much money." "You don't cost too much money," Shouta said quickly, even though Izuku truly did cost quite a bit of money. "And I think the word you're looking for is stressed." "Mm-hmm," Izuku said. Shouta handed him the plate, and Izuku started picking at his food. He always picked at his food before he ate it, like he was trying to eat it as slow as possible. Shouta and Hizashi weren't like that. They both tended to scarf down their food as quickly as possible, due to the physical activity that was practically a given with their jobs, and all the exercise they went through with the regular training. Both of them had to eat more than a regular person might to stay healthy. Izuku wasn't like that. Izuku picked at practically everything. Shouta would be worried about that too, if not for the fact that he always ended up finishing the last bit of his food before long anyhow. It took a total of 20 minutes for Izuku to finish the sandwich. "Shower, and then I'll see about taking care of your cuts," Shouta said, and Izuku nodded. Shouta helped him out to get to the bathroom, and turned the water on for him, before taking his leave, waiting in the living room for Izuku to finish. Because there were things Izuku did need help with, and things he did not want help with. Showering was one of those many things. 30 minutes later, and Izuku was calling for him from the bathroom. He was wearing hero-themed pajama pants, and his hair was still soaking wet, dripping water everywhere. Shouta sat on the edge of the bathtub, Izuku standing in front of him, and Shouta took a washcloth, the softest washcloth they owned, since the scars were still tender, and wet it with water, some of the mild soap the doctor had recommended before dabbing the long, thin, red cuts that donned his nephew's Abandonment. Izuku's face pulled down into a frown, and his eyes were squeezed tightly shut as he did so, but he let out no outward sign of pain. Shouta finished cleaning the scars after a few moments and handed the boy a towel. Your hair is wet. I can't put the band-aid back on. Dry it. Izuku rubbed the towel across his head viciously before drying his shoulders and Abandonment. After Shouta deemed him dry enough, he put a new band-aid over the incision, and after Izuku said he didn't want to go back to bed, helped him into the living room. Why are you so stressed? Izuku asked, cuddling up to throw a pillow. Shouta tossed a soft blanket over him. One thing Shouta had noticed since Izuku come back from the hospital was that he liked cuddling up to any pillow that was closest, even in his sleep. Shouta thought it might be because he was missing Takara and Akio, who were at Nemuri's house until Izuku got better so they wouldn't jump on him and hurt him. Don't worry about it, child. Shouta said. He placed a random Disney movie into the DVD player and turned on the TV at the lowest volume he could, with Izuku still being able to hear it, and sat on the couch with Izuku. I'm gonna worry about it, Izuku said, resolutely. Is it 'cause Unky Sashi is sick? Yes, Shouta said. Lie. What? You lied, Izuku said. Lying is bad. You're not supposed to lie. You're supposed to tell the truth. Cartoons and books always say that honestly is the best policy. So you're not allowed to lie to me. It makes it harder to help people if they lie, too. And I want to help you. It's not really a lie, Shouta admitted. Not really. But Sashi being sick is a contributing factor. Izuku blinked. I don't know what that means. It means, Shouta frowned. It means it's a reason. It's one reason why I am stressed. It is adding on to the problem. What's the main problem? Izuku asked. And wasn't that a question? It was hard to say, harder to understand. And it could be the proposal. It could be Izuku and Hizashi being sick, not having a job, the delay in the money from show, money in general, his calf not being there. I'm not sure, Shouta admitted. Izuku said. Shouta was honestly surprised the boy was still talking to him. This was the longest conversation they've had since he's come from the hospital. Maybe the pain was getting better. Well, I think you gotta figure it out. You can't fix it if you can't figure it out. And then you'll be really sad for a long time, and that's no fun. You're right, Shouta said. It is not. Izuku was quiet for a moment, staring at the colorful characters on the TV screen. Tell me about you and Hizashi, he said. Shouta frowned. I want a story. I don't want to watch TV. All right, Shouta said. What do you want to know? About school. Something happy. There's too much sad. You gotta think about something happy. I'm confused, Shouta stated. Is this a story for me or for you? Izuku shrugged. Both. Shouta folded his hands in front of himself, setting his chin onto them. Brows pinched in thought. A happy memory. There was quite a few, but it might not be amusing to the child. He was so young. He probably wouldn't find their movie nights in Shota's old apartment particularly exciting, or the stories from when Shouta had stayed at Hisashi's house. I was 15 years old, Shouta said. I think. Yes, it was my first birthday at UA, so I was 15. I told Nemuri and Hizashi at school. They insisted upon doing something for it, since I was their friend. We hadn't known each other that long at that point. Hizashi and I weren't together. He tapped out a little rhythm on his knee, deep in thought, trying to dig up old memories he hadn't thought about for a while. It was surprisingly difficult. It hadn't been that long, had it? 5 years. They were utterly unimpressed with my apartment, Shouta said. And I didn't have enough food in the fridge for everyone, so we went to a ramen shop and I ate there. I think we went to the movies afterwards, or maybe we watched a movie at my apartment. I'm not entirely sure. That was a bit distressing, admittedly. Why couldn't he remember? It had been his best birthday he'd ever had. It had been his first birthday he'd ever had in years that wasn't alone. Shouta couldn't remember that? That's okay, Izuku said. It's probably 'cause you got lots of other happy stuff that happened to dis distract. Yeah, that. Izuku grinned at him, and it was so clear that he was tired, but it was still blinding. It probably just distracted you, so now it's a little fuzzy. It happens to me sometimes too. Somehow I doubt that, Shouta said. It does, Izuku said. Like on the first day of school, I was really happy because I was friends with Ochaka, but then I got friends with Toshi and Mei and Denki, and now it's a little fuzzy when I think about it. See? And when mommy was all sad, that wasn't very happy because the kids were mean at me at school and I was sad about not having a quirk and I felt sick and yucky all the time. But then I met you in Unki's show, so now that's a little fuzzy too. Not a lot, because it was scary too. But it's still fuzzy. See? Yes, Shouta said. Yes, I think so. Good, Izuku said. See, I could teach you too. Yes, yes you can. Can I nap on the couch? I don't want to get up and move. Go right ahead. Izuku smiled at him, looking grateful before snuggling further into his blankets and hugging his pillow close to his chest and falling asleep. Shouta waited for a few moments, staring at the television in front of him with its bright colors and little cartoons, until he heard the boy start snoring softly. He stood up and walked into the kitchen and grabbed a small bottle of juice from the fridge. He downed half of it before putting his phone out. He downed half of it before pulling his phone out. He downed half of it before pulling his phone out of his pocket and calling Nemuri back. She answered on the second ring. I don't know, Shouta said. And I don't know how to talk about it, because I don't know how to pick and choose the words. And that is my problem, and not yours. I shouldn't have hung up on you the way I did, and I shouldn't have gotten irritated with you. You got irritated with me? Extremely so. And he shouldn't have. He really shouldn't have, because Nemuri was his friend, and because Nemuri brought happy memories into his life and made his bad memories fuzzy, and because Nemuri was family and Shouta didn't want to be angry at someone he considered family. Okay, Nemuri said. Okay, I can work with this. What makes you the most uneasy about all of this? Is it marrying Hizashi in general? Do you not want to marry him? I think I do, because I love Sashi, Shouta said. And I know I would have to do it at some point to get Izuku. I know that in theory, but I didn't think it would be like this. And I'm not quite sure why I didn't expect this. But here we are, and I have no idea what's wrong with me. Talk it out, Nemuri said. I do not have the words to talk it out. I've got all night. All right, he said. He was quiet for a moment. Things are changing. Changing? Changing. A lot. Quite a bit. Quite a lot. And it's not bad change, but it's change, and I'm not sure how to deal with that. Because it's happening quite quickly. Like with Izuku. That was a change. Yes, and it was terrifying. Change is terrifying, and it feels off-putting, and I don't know how to deal with it. I know things changing makes you feel weird, Nemuri said. But this isn't a bad thing, it's just a thing. That's worse. Yes, I know, we established that you hate change. Yes. Nemuri was quiet for a moment. Why do you hate change? Because I do not have control, and I don't like it, Shouta said. That, at least, he knew with certainty. I had no control for anything that happened when I was young. I had no control when I was bedridden for weeks. I had no control during the mission, or when Izuku got sick, or when I got Izuku. I had no choice, and I don't regret most of the things. I don't, but it still is difficult. Shouta, you kind of are in control here. I'm not sure I understand. It's not really out of your hands this time. The change. You have control here, because you guys can't get married without you saying yes, so... Oh. Yes. Oh. Nemuri said, and by the tone of her voice, Shouta could tell he was never going to be able to live this down. Feeling less weird about it? Yes. Yes, I think so. Good. Oh, shit. Nemuri said, like she was just realizing something. What? You hate things being out of your hand? Yes. It makes you uncomfortable and irritated? Incredibly. I am so sorry. What did you do? You remember those jobs I was telling you about? Yes. I submitted your application, and after an interview, of course, I'm pretty sure they're gonna hire you. Nemuri. Yes? Nemuri. Yes? What job? Well, you see... What job? UA High School? Shota's side of the conversation ended with a click. Okay, alright. Psychology corner, we're gonna go. Alright, so first of all, the whole not liking change, this could come from two areas in Shota's life. So this could literally just be his trauma response. He does not like when things are out of his control because throughout his whole life, he has had control over nothing. Things go bad, and it's all because it's out of his control. Stuff that he couldn't control. His father leaving, his mother leaving, his sister leaving, not having enough food, being abandoned. All of that stuff is something that he couldn't... Nothing he did was going to change those stuff, right? Nothing he did was gonna keep the people... it's out of his control completely. And this also can just be in the sense of neurodivergency. Neurodivergent people don't like change. I know for a fact that my brother really struggles with change, especially in school. When they're transitioning between one subject to another subject, obviously he's like in kinder, so it's not like he's changing classes completely, but like, I feel like that would be worse for him as well. But like, I mean, like, small changes like, oh, we're gonna go from writing to math, or we're gonna go from drawing to this, or we're gonna do this to this, or from recess to class, or from class to recess. Those transitional periods are when he is more likely to have a meltdown, have have difficulties and problems with the school. It's an ongoing battle, us, school, and him. Specifically us and him, and then with the school, because look, we've been trying to get the school to get him his accommodations that he needs, but the school has... I swear to God, they said that an EIP doesn't exist, and that an EIP is the same as in, EIP is the same as an IEP. Or we've been trying to get him an IEP, Individualized Education Program. I know I said EIP. And they're like, oh, that's not a thing. That thing is the same thing as EIP, right? IEP and EIP are not the same thing. IEP is, as I said, Individualized Education Program. EIP is Early Intervention Program. I went through EIP, right? That's not the same as an IEP, right? An individualized education program is meant to help students who are of high needs to get the needs that they need, right? Like a 504, right? Except it's a little different from a 504. There's certain things that are different. I'm not gonna get into it right here, but like, whatever. Point taken is, this could stem from both, obviously, the neurodivergency of him not liking change. Change is a hard thing for neurodivergent people. Not all of them, but some of them. And it could just be a trauma response, or it could be both of them going together. Now, Izuku, I feel the fact that he doesn't want to leave Aizawa alone, that if Aizawa leaves, something bad will happen to him. I feel like it's less of Izuku feeling like something bad's gonna happen to him, and more of Izuku's feeling that something bad's gonna happen to Aizawa. Notice that when Aizawa mentioned the fact that he was stressed, Izuku immediately tried to analyze, okay, what is it that's making you stressed, right? And, Izuku tried to help him, tried to distract him, trying to make him happy, right? It's like, until he got sleepy and he fell asleep. That is a tendency of people-pleasing behaviors stemming specifically from trauma. He doesn't want Shouta to be so stressed out that he does what his mother did, right? He is petrified. I also think that his whole speech thing, where he starts adding W's where W's should not be added, is again another thing that stems from trauma. Some kids revert to a more childlike state, even adults. It's a whole word of it. Hold up, I'm trying to... I haven't put it down in my notes because I did a whole, not study on it. That sounds super fancy. I don't do fancy stuff like that. That's not me. Hold up. I'm not that fancy. Am I? Nah. Oh my god. No, I'm not. No, okay. So, age regression, whatever. That. Age regression is a type of therapy. So this could be conscious, unconscious, not like conscious and unconscious, but it could be something that you do consciously or subconsciously, or it could be something that you do with a therapist, right? Which that would be conscious-wise, right? You could consciously choose to, like, hey, I'm gonna, watch my favorite TV show when I was a little kid and just, enjoy it, It's when you revert back to childish behaviors in a form to cope, right? You revert back to a younger state to, help. So sometimes people do this unconsciously. This happens, subconsciously in their mind. They do the switch and they do that, right? And in Izuku's case, it's probably the subconscious. I don't think he's consciously choosing to do this, but I think it's a subconscious of like, I'm gonna go revert back to when I couldn't pronounce words. I'm gonna heal myself. That was a time where I was happy. I'm feeling happy. It's self-medicating, basically, so yeah. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.